everyone. I hope you all are having a good Friday afternoon. We are so happy to have Scholé Academy students with us and Mrs. Reith-Miller for the classroom experience in math. I'm going to give everybody just a couple minutes to join us from the wait room. I see that number ticking upwards as people are joining us, so I'll give a couple bits of information about how to use the Q&A and chat box, and then I'll do some formal introductions. Christy, there's a question in the chat box related to technology. I don't know if you can address that. We will try to respond to that question and make that possible if we can. So just as a reminder, this event is recorded. If you have to leave early or for some reason your technology bumps you out, this whole event is recorded and we'll make it available to you. And if you're joining us after the fact and you're seeing the recording, welcome. What we invite you to do during the classroom experience is you can use the Q&A to ask questions, and then after the classroom experience, which is about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, we will then have time to answer those questions before we wrap up. And today's event is an hour, so we want to give as much time to the classroom experience and then Q&A. You can also use the chat box. Some of you have already discovered how to do that, which is great. Feel free to introduce yourself and say hello and where you're joining us from. And as I said, we are very delighted. So let me start off just by talking about Scholé Academy briefly. Scholé Academy started in 2014. We are an educational service line within Classical Academic Press. The school started in 2014. This year we have over 200 classes, just about 90 instructors, and we offer classes for students kindergarten through 12th grade. We offer summer programs. All of our classes are live, relational, and personal. So we don't offer asynchronous courses. We don't use the chat box in our classes. Today we have a chat box because that makes this type of presentation easier in terms of connecting with the audience. But our classes, as you'll see, are very engaging and personal. Students can see each other and they communicate with their instructor. So we do not use discussion boards during class or chat boxes and things like that. The courses that we offer are within the liberal arts tradition across the trivium and quadrivium, and the instructors who work with us are enthusiasts of classical education, and they are trained in classical pedagogy. And specifically, we all strive to teach using the Scholé philosophy, which is that restful contemplative learning, which means that learning focuses on what is most essential, instruction focuses on what is most essential, and we give our students time to dive deep, enjoy rich discussion, have collaborative experiences in math and science across all disciplines. We also offer 3 houses of studies. This is a part of our ecumenical mission. So families who are interested in studying courses in a specific tradition, whether it's Orthodox, Catholic, or Anglican and Reformed Protestant, you can choose classes in one of our 3 houses. So today, I am very excited to introduce to you Mrs. Joelle Reith-Miller. She has been with us for a couple years, and she is one of our beloved instructors in the math department. She believes true education impacts the mind, body, and soul. Her BS is in mathematics, and she has been involved in education for over 20 years as a parent. And so with that, I want to pass this event to her so that we can jump right into learning more about our math program and see a classroom experience.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Shinstock. Welcome, everyone. Hopefully you'll get a sense here of how our Scholé math classes might be a little different than what you would expect from an online math class. I had one of my students this year make that comment, and it's dear to my heart. So she said, I did not expect this to be this way, a math class this way. So thank you for my students. These are Scholé Academy Foundational Math 6 students who have agreed to participate today. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. All right, here we go. So we always start our class with prayer and some recitation. Okay, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Come, Holy Spirit, divine creator, true source of light and fountain of wisdom, pour forth your brilliance upon my dense intellect, dissipate the darkness which covers me, that of sin and of ignorance. Grant me a penetrating mind to understand, a retentive memory and ease in learning, the lucidity to comprehend, and abundant grace in expressing myself. Guide the beginning of my work, direct its progress, and bring it to successful completion. This I ask through Jesus Christ, true God and true man, living and reigning with you and the Father forever and ever. Amen. All right, this week we're talking about and focusing on one of our Scholé Academy virtues for love, for God's perfect timing with St. Valentine's Day this week. So I will ask God for an increase in virtue and wisdom and strive to cultivate love. Okay, students, what is mathematics? Matthias.
Mathematics is the language with which God has written the universe.
Thank you. And Ella, what is mathematics?
Mathematics is the science of patterns and the art of engaging the meaning of those patterns.
Thank you. And from Holy Scripture, the Book of Wisdom, 11 verse 20. Adalia?
But thou hast arranged all things by measure and number and weight.
And Abigail, what is the basic reason to study mathematics?
To study mathematics is to behold the glory of God reflected therein.
Thank you. And Holy Scripture again, Romans 11 verse 36. Ella?
Sorry. For from him and through him and to him are all things. To him be glory forever. Amen.
And mathematics comes from him, lives through him, and exists in him. And who should study mathematics, Matthias?
Math is for everybody. Math helps everybody flourish.
Absolutely. Thank you. And what does it mean to be a mathematician? Adalia?
A mathematician values the usefulness of numbers to describe the ordered and beautiful patterns we find in this world.
Thank you. Okay, and just like every other day in our foundational math class, what are we going to strive for? We are going to strive to be smart, and we will do that by, let's do the tag. You want to do the tag? We'll start with Abigail.
I will be studious, Matthias.
Mindful, Ella.
Amenable, Adalia.
Tenacious, that's right.
Responsible and tenacious, and I will enjoy exploring patterns and will cultivate my ability to reason, endowed by God. Okay, well done. Well done. All right, let's talk a little bit about optical illusions. So every Monday in our class, we have a Monday Math Marvel where we go a little beyond what we're studying out of the textbook, right? And we talk about the broader scope of some mathematical concepts. And we've talked also about how it's all about perspective, right, students? So we can, and that goes as far as even our attitude, right? We talk about how we can have, look at a problem one way, and maybe if we look at it a different way, we can we can step away and look at it a different way, and we can come up with a solution as well. So we try to get past that moment of anxiety, right? Or that that fear or that concern, or I don't know what to do. So we try to keep our perspective, right? We can have a different perspective. So Matthias, what were you going to share about what do you see in this picture?
Could I just say one perspective, or should I say both perspectives?
Go ahead, give us one perspective.
It looks like two men are just two people are facing each other on the other side.
Right, nose to nose, right? So here is profile pictures of two human beings, almost nose to nose. Good, that's one perspective. But if we refocus our eyes, step back and look at it a different way, Ella, what do you see?
It's like a goblet.
Yes, like a chalice or a goblet, a wine goblet in the center. So if you refocus on the black, you can see that. How about the next one? It's from way back at the beginning of the year. Do you remember? What do you see, Adalia?
I see either an old lady or a young lady.
An old lady or a young lady. Good. So again, your perspective on the picture. So I will try to outline here. So we have a young lady who's looking behind her. So her chin is kind of on her shoulder. Here's her cheekbone or her chin and jawline. She's got like a choker necklace on, and this is her ear. Or refocus, look again, and there is an old woman who has her chin tucked against her chest. Okay, this is her pointy chin, her mouth, and her rather large nose. And the young lady's ear becomes her eye, the old lady's eye. So we talk about taking a look at things from a different point of view. We talked about M.C. Escher and how he was an artist who initially did not fully engage in the mathematics, but he through his artwork though, and through his study then incorporated more and more mathematics into his work. So another type of optical illusion on the left here with the birds, which are transforming into these fish as that goes down the page. And my favorite, the hand drawing the hand with 2-dimensional into 3-dimensional. Okay, so mathematics and art together. So we try to show the connection, the common thread also that's within mathematics in our world. And this week we talked about forced perspective and geometry. So we had some fun with these pictures, right? We can, Adalia's saying yes. What did we talk about with forced perspective and geometry? Do you remember what the connection is, Adalia?
No.
Like a 3-dimensional, right? Something 3-dimensional with depth. Matthias, you want to take it from there?
Wasn't it kind of like what we were just doing, forced perspective? Like you can look at it from one way and you can look at it from another perspective.
Mm-hmm. So the forced perspective and geometry, take a look at that picture, right? We've got a 3D image, or not a 3D, this is a 2-dimensional image, but your brain, if you were looking at it in actuality, right, knows how to adjust what your eyes are perceiving and can process the depth of that. So forced perspective means that we take that and make that 3D image onto a 2-dimensional, there's your geometry, 3D to 2D, right? 2-dimensional. And we have these funny pictures here of what kind of like trick photography, right? Where this people are getting stepped on. Oh, and there's one about to be eaten. So taking, again, another look at the way we perceive things, way we might see something, and how we can change our perspective on that. Okay, here we go. So I have this image here of what we could describe as a multiplication problem, right? A type of multiplication problem. So how would you, what numbers would you use to describe this situation? Or how would you, what dimensions would this be? Matthias?
5 by 8.
5 by 8. Yep. So there's the 8. Here's the 5, right? That's 8 blocks long here, 5 blocks high or 5 blocks wide. Good. And what would be the area of this? Or how many squares are within this entire green space, Abigail?
It would contain 40 squares.
40 squares. Good. So we could say this was 40 square units, right? Or 8 times 5 is 40. That's how we're used to thinking about our multiplication tables, rows and columns, right? 8 groups of 5 or 5 groups of 8. Okay, let's take a look at this one now. So I have the same amount, but I'm breaking this down into a different grouping. So if I were to write this out, oh, I should change my color. Yellow is not too great there. That off. Okay. So we could say 5 times, I'm using a dot for my multiplication because we know that now that we're in 6th grade and into 7th grade, right, we have X's to represent variables. So we don't want to confuse that with our multiplication. So 5 times 8, right? But I can rewrite this 8 based on how I show my colored blocks here. Okay, so I can say 5 times, and I've got 3 yellow blocks plus 5 blue blocks. That's what I'm demonstrating for you. Okay. Abigail, Matthias, Adalia, do you think, can you come up with a different way? Would you like to annotate here on the screen? Come up with a different way to break 8 apart. Okay, so I'm showing the yellow and the blue. Can you think of 2 other add-ins that you could get to make 8? What do you think, Matthias?
We could split 8
Yes, how would you split? What's another way to split 8?
in 4. It's a 4.
Okay. Yep, 4 and 4. So we can imagine that if we broke this in 4, can you annotate up here that you would have, let's break the 8. What would you have in parentheses? Matthias, can you put in the 4 plus 4? How about one more? What is another way we can break that group up? Abigail?
1 plus 7.
Oh, 1 plus 7. Okay, 5, 1 plus 7. Good. Ella?
8 plus 0.
Ooh, 8 plus 0. Okay, so that would kind of bring us back to this one, right? 5 times 8, 8 plus 0. Good. We could do 2 and 6, right? We could go 2 and 6 beyond that. Good. Okay. So do you see here how there are, with this yellow box, I can rename this yellow box as 5 times 3. See how this is 5 times 3? There are 15 here. How would I rename the blue box? The 5 stays the same. How many blue squares are within there? Adalia?
5 times 5.
5 times 5. 5 times 5. So 15 here, 25 there. Do we still have our 40 that we started with in the green? Yes, good. Thumbs up. Yes, we do. We still have our 40. So we could either look at this as 3 plus 5, or we can look at it as two smaller rectangles that make it up. 5 times 3 plus 5 times 5. Okay, so I can rewrite or look at this differently. This larger box and break it into 2 smaller boxes. So Matthias, this one I think was yours, right? Can you break that up into what the 2 smaller boxes would be that would also make up the total of 40?
5 times 4?
Mhm. Yeah, you're right. 5 times 4. You want to go ahead and write that in, annotate that in there?
Yes, please.
And Abigail, I think you gave us 1 plus 7, right? Can you go ahead and add and annotate what that would break into? Thank you. This one, can you correct this piece? See it there? What should that be? 5 times 1. And this one. See how Matthias is 5 times 4 plus another 5 times 4. So what would yours be here? 5 times 1 plus 5 times, one more correction right here. Good, very good. Thank you. Yes, 5 times 1 plus 5 times 7. Okay, so we make, so if we were looking at this block over here, we would have, I'm going to go this way. Here would be Abigail's, right? 5 times 1. And then these would be the 5 times 7. Okay, so go back to mine. 15 plus 25. What 2 smaller blocks would be in Matthias's, Adalia? What would be the first group of blocks? What's
20?
this? Yes, good. 20. And the second one would also be, go ahead, Adalia.
20.
20. Okay, Ella, what happens to Abigail's over here? What would be the amount in the first block that's making up that larger? 5 times 1 would be
5.
5. Yeah, so this is the 5 blocks here. And then the other piece that makes up that larger rectangle, what would be the 5 times 7, Ella?
35.
35. Good. Notice here how all of these add to the 40 blocks that we started with, right? So here's our perspective coming in again, because I can rewrite, erase those blocks. I can rewrite or think in a different way about that rectangle and the size of the rectangle. So we can apply that now to a new problem situation. And if I'm not quite sure, or I can't mentally do in my head 7 times 15, what could I break 15 up into to do a little bit smaller, maybe a little more doable mental calculation? Abigail, what do you think?
10 plus 5.
10 plus 5 sounds good. Do you have to do 10 plus 5? What else? What's another combination we could do, Matthias?
3 plus 5?
To make 15.
Yes.
Make 15.
Oh,
3.
wait. No.
There you go. Make your correction. 3 times 5 is 15. So what adds to 15?
I can't think.
It's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. So 2 add-ins, right, to get to the sum. So what if one was 7, Matthias? What would the other one be? 7 plus what would give you 15?
8.
8. Yes. So we could do 7 and 8, 10 and 5, right? It's a little bit easier to take 7 times 10 and 7 times 5, right? New perspective on the problem. And what is, what would be after here? How would you finish this out? Adalia, could you finish this next step here? What would be 7 times 10 and 7 times 5? Can you annotate that in, just like if we were in a classroom with a chalkboard, right? Seven times 10 is 7 times 5 is 35. That one was good. And 7 times 10, 70. Good. I'm going to add the plus side in here. And then Ella, show us again. What were you holding up there on your whiteboard? Good. There's 105 in all, right? Explain that, Ella. Can you tell me what you're talking about?
Well, I did this in the quickest mental way possible. So I knew that 7 plus 10 was 7 plus 3 was 10, and then I added the zeros and then the 5.
Okay. So 70 and 30 would be 100 and then the 5. Yep. Same, a different way of explaining that. Good. 105. So rather than taking 7 times 15, we can take 7 or we can take the 15 and break it down, look at the problem a different way and come up with our answer, 105. So how can that help us with these fractions over here? How can I break up the 15 and a half maybe to help us with this fraction multiplication? Let's just think about the mixed number being a whole number part and a fraction part, right? Whole number, the mixed number is a whole number part and a fraction part. So let's break them apart. What do you think, Abigail? What can I put in these 2 spots?
Could you do the same thing? So 10 and 5, but you add the 1.5, so 5.5 as a decimal.
Okay, so do the same thing, meaning the 10 and the 5 for the 15, right?
Mhm.
And
And
then
then-
I still have that half. So I'm going to add in, good. Good, I like that. So thinking a little beyond what I had set up there, right? 10, 5, and a half. So we could imagine breaking 15 and a half into 3 pieces instead of those 2 like we started out with. So is it easy then to do this multiplication down here? What would I fill in this in this first spot, Ella? 4 times what?
I can't think. Would it be 10?
It would be 10, yes. And the second one, 4 times Adalia, what would go here if we're using Abigail's perspective on the problem? 5, thank you. And then what would go in this last box, Abigail? Or in the last parentheses?
Half.
1/2. Good. Do you want to put it in there? Well done. Well done. So maybe back up here when I was looking at it, that was a little intimidating, right? 4 times 15 and a half. How do I do that problem? But if we use the process that we just described and the model that I demonstrated for you, we can break this problem into a little bit more manageable. What happened to our 5? Where did it go? There it is. Thank you. All right, 40 plus 20 plus 4 times a half. 4 times a half. Can you show me with your fingers? This one's easy to do. You have enough fingers to show me this one. 4 times a half. What's half of 4? 2. Very good. Half of 4 is 2. So easier, right? A little simpler. 40 plus 20 plus 2. Try again, Ella. You got, yeah, there you go. 62.
I
Yes.
had brain damage for a second. I'm like, oh, I saw 4.
4 and 2. Yep. I saw what you were doing. Yep. 40 plus 20 plus 2, a total of 62. Okay. Any questions so far? So we're taking something that might be a little bit intimidating or cause us a little bit of anxiety, right? And applying this property, which we are going to describe, to it to make the problem a little bit easier. Oh, now let's look at this. So we've gone from a visual model to applying that to just working with numbers. And now we've got this lovely X variable in here. So we're thinking more abstractly. Yeah, an X, a variable, right? And at first you can think, oh no. Is that what you were saying, Ella? Oh no.
I
An
just
X.
don't like the variables.
Just don't like the variables. But let's apply what we've just done on the previous screens to this situation, okay? Let's apply this to the situation. I don't know what X is, right? But I do know that this is 3 plus X to make that total length on the top. So think about that being the 8, okay? And times 5. If I knew what X is, I could figure this out pretty easily, right? Either using your order of operations. Let's say X is 10. If X is 10, how would you do it, Matthias? Would you do that? Would you break it apart, or would you?
We would replace the variable X as 10, and then using the distributive property, we would multiply 5 by 3 and 5 by 10.
Good. Very good. So using what we were talking about, the distributive property, right, on the previous slides, 5 times 3 and 5 times 10. Okay. Or if I knew that this was 10, I could add in my parentheses first and then multiply. Right. So there's another way we could solve it, but I don't know X. So what's the best way we can figure this out? In other words, what would be this block? How would we describe it? 5 times, Matthias?
Same way, using the distributive property, we would times 5 by 3 and 5 by X.
And then add 5 times X. Excellent.
15
Good.
plus 5X.
15 plus 5X. Very good. And then we can't go really any further unless we knew what X was, right? So we took what we had visual model of, then we applied it to just numerals, and now we've taken it to a more abstract, meaning something that's a little bit more difficult that I can't see exactly, right? Ella.
So would it be 15 divided by 5?
So this we would not be able to go any further unless I had an X. If I had a value for X, then I could continue, right? So let's go back to, let's put a 5 in for X. If X is 5, what would I do here? We would substitute. You want to continue, Ella? If X is 5, what would this second term be?
Sorry, I have background noise right now.
5, okay. 5 times 5.
So 25.
25, good. 5 times 5, 25. And then I can get a final answer, right, of 40. Final answer of 40. But if I don't have a value for X, I have to stop here. Do you remember what that's called? What we call this when we don't have an equal sign and we just have these terms here. And it depends on what X is. Oh, I'm making you think. Hard, didn't prep you for that one. So we have an expression when there isn't an equal sign, and any value we can put in for x, right? And then what was next? When we have something where there's one solution, what do we call that, Ella?
Is it an inequality?
An equation, and then describe an inequality. Do you want to describe an inequality, Ella?
Frankly, I don't know how to.
Okay, so an expression has many solutions depending what we put in replace for x, right? An equation, show me with your fingers, an equation only has how many solutions? One. Yep, only has one solution. And an inequality has a range of solutions, right? A range of solutions. Good. Okay, so here is what we have demonstrated, from picture to numbers to more of an abstract form using our variable x. This is our distributive property. And I think, Matthias, you called it by name, right? So now we are defining or identifying what we have just done. We worked with the distributive property, okay? That when we have a value, A, times a sum of two other values, then I can multiply and change the perspective on the problem, right? And we have the distributive property. So we just now have worked, so now we have a name for what we've done, right? Distributive property can help us do some mental math a little easier. And we can also look at it as a visual problem, right? Can also look at it as a visual problem. Okay, let's do one example before we close. Let's see here. I'm going to put up a problem. Adalia, can you work on this one? Make that into, use the distributive property, change how you might solve this problem. Matthias, are you up for a fraction? No? I bet you can do it. Let's try it, and I will help you if you need some assistance. Okay, how about 5 and let's do 5.5. Okay, Adalia, you can start working on that one. Abigail, how about one with a variable? Let's change that. We'll leave it that way. Okay, Ella, I'm going to have you do one on your board, okay? On your whiteboard. Did you have a question?
Should I be scared?
No, don't be scared. You know better than that, right? Don't be scared. Okay. Okay, let's do, let me see. I will break the number apart this time. Okay, can you apply the distributive property to this problem? So on your whiteboard, you're going to show me the product plus this product. Dahlia, can you explain yours? Okay, there's another step. Good. Breaking 14, can you explain it?
So I broke 14 into 10 and 4, and then said 3 times 10 and plus 3 times 4, and the answers are 30 and 12, and then I added this together.
Wonderful. Nice job. Nice job. 30 and 12 is 42. Okay, Matthias, go for it. What's your explanation here for yours?
Using the distributive property, I times 2 times 5 and 2 times a half. And 2 times 5 is 25. And 2 times a half, well, half of 2 is 1. So I added both of those, and that leads to 26.
Okay, check your work. I see 1, one mistake in this line. Sometimes, remember, like we have to take a different look at it, right? So maybe one of our classmates can help you see where it is there. Do you see it, Abigail or Adalia or Ella? Do you see where his mistake is? Broke 5.5. Oh, do you see it, Matthias? Yes, good.
I got confused with 5.
Uh-huh.
So
That's okay. You
that's
found your
actually
mistake.
10.
You
So-
found your mistake. So 2 times 5, 10, 2 times a half, 1, and final answer 11. Excellent job. Good job, Matthias. All right, let's look at Abigail's. Perfect. I think that looks pretty similar to the one I had before, huh? 15 plus 5x, well done. And Ella, let's see your board here. No, let's walk through it. Okay, 3 times 5, agree. Abigail, Adalia, and Matthias, do you agree with her 3 times 5 that she showed 15? Okay, hold it back up again, Ella. And what do you have in that second one? Is that a 9?
Sorry, I have ugly 9s.
That's okay. All right, so she has a 9 here. Do you agree with the 9? No, not quite. Help her out. Ella, choose either Abigail or Adalia who has their hand up to help you make that correction.
Go ahead, Abigail.
3 times 4 equals 12.
Yes, 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so 3 times 5 plus 3 times 4 is 12. Now, Ella, can you give us the total, the sum? Yay, good job. 27. Well done, ladies and gentlemen. Well done, well done. Okay. All right, so today we talked about perspective, right? Perspective and how we can take a different look, maybe step back, take a different look at a problem and see a new way of solving. We talk about in class how we talk about the different roads, right? You have a different map. So somebody might, if you're all going to the library building, you might have a different route that you get there, right? As long as you follow the traffic rules, follow the road rules, right? And you're not doing anything against the mathematical rules, you can get to that library using a different route, right? So we talked about the distributive property. We used a visual model, numerical models, and then a more abstract model with our variables to describe it. All right. And guess what? There's no assignment for this lesson. So what are you going to do now? You are, I guess, officially on winter break, right? Following this officially for you. Praise God at all times. Perform well your tasks and whatever you may have to do. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Thank you, Adalia, Matthias, Abigail, Ella. Thank you for participating. Appreciate your help. Enjoy your break.
Thank you, everyone. That was an incredible experience. I just appreciate how everyone navigated kind of real-time struggle together very well. All right, well, let's now use our time to look at some questions that have been coming in during the demonstration. So, Mrs. Reese-Miller, I'm going to pass our first question to you. So collaborative whiteboard use. How do the students use it? Just how was that possible today was one of the questions, just in terms of the technology. And then maybe if you could describe other ways that the class does collaborative problem solving, what they might experience in a math class.
I knew it was bound to happen. Forgot that button. All right, so when we have a Zoom meeting open, then there is an annotate option on there. So what I've chosen to do, I just pull up a blank PowerPoint slide, and that's what we use as our chalkboard. For me, it seems like that's a little bit better than using the Zoom whiteboard, but that's just my preference. You saw Ella use the actual whiteboard. So I do ask that as part of my materials for my classes, that they have a personal sized whiteboard as well that they can use dry erase markers on. So if for some reason the technology isn't there or they're having issues that day, then they have a physical board, and I will use one as well within my classes. Okay, so that was the whiteboard. Collaborative problem solving. We do some breakout room opportunities. So I may present a problem, an application problem, based on the skills that we're working on, and then send the students into Zoom breakout rooms where they work 3, 4 at a time, and can unmute and discuss the problem. And then we come back and go over it within the main room again. So there are times where we have times in class where they can work with their peers, and then I always try to bring it back and have them explain, and so they're getting their classmates' viewpoint on it, and they're hearing their classmates explain a solution or a way to solve a problem, not just coming from me as well. So I think that was the questions, right?
That was great. Thank you. Can you describe, at least at maybe kind of a bird's eye view, of the course map? So in relation to what the students did today in the demonstration, where does that fit into the academic year? So where do students start typically with this class? What do they learn and develop? And then where do they finish at the end of the year?
So this again was a topic that we would cover in foundational math, which is the 6th grade level. So that distributive property topic is actually, let me see here. We've covered it probably close to Christmas time. So we start out with ratios and rates, move into fractions, decimals, and percents, and finding percents of a number. Then we go to computations with fractions. We get into integer. In the 6th grade class is basically positive and negative numbers and how to recognize them. We don't get into operations with integers, with signed numbers, until the 7th grade course. So integers, rational numbers, and now, so after like December, January timeframe, we're getting into the more abstract concepts of algebraic expressions, and then moving into equations and inequalities, which you heard them mention, because that's where we are right now, is talking about inequalities. Then we talk about the relationship between two variables and relate, again, the visual to the equation, so a graph to the table to the actual equation and how that translates. And then we'll get into our geometry concepts. So we'll be moving into area, volume, surface area, and some statistics to end the year.
Thank you. I'm just going through some other questions we have here. So what math books or curriculum do you use? Is it entirely your own? And then there's a follow-up question. Do kids have assignments outside of the live class? So maybe let's start with the math book curriculum, how that's chosen, and then we can talk about homework outside of the class in terms of how do they do it and amount.
Okay. Currently, we are using the McGraw-Hill Reveal Math program. And so I teach the 6th grade from course 1 of that curriculum. And then the 7th grade is course 2 of that same program, Reveal Math. And I treat it as kind of my backbone. So I don't always, I mean, I use the textbook as far as, and again, I'm speaking only for my classes. I use the like the practice pages, the homework pages, those kinds of things, but I don't necessarily use the textbook in class to teach from. And as far as assignments, yes, there are assignments outside of class, but I consider my live class time with my students that that hour that we spend together is when I want them to really be wrestling with things, so that the time outside of class should be very minimal. I don't expect them to spend another hour outside of class on homework. So I give very minimal assignments outside of class, which is basically just so they can practice what we did in class. So very often I will go through application problems in the classroom setting. So more of the in-depth kind of problems where we can discuss and talk it through. And then their homework is more of the, you know, here's an equation, solve it, that kind of thing. I think
That's great. Thank you. Can you talk maybe a little bit about the placement assessment process? One of the questions, how many students in the course will fall into the advanced 5th grade category? So it's a 6th grade class, but we welcome advanced 5th graders. So what does that look like in terms of a placement process?
Yes, so we do have, and I don't have it in front of me, but we have a list, like you can contact the instructor. There's a list of prerequisite skills that we expect the student coming into the class. So I would have a list, if you can contact the instructor, I would have a list of skills that I would expect a incoming foundational math student to know. The placement process, we open those placement tests up for students. They have the opportunity to take that test and then throughout the summer work on concepts and retake the placement test if they do not fare well the first time through. So there is some time there. If you register for the class or enroll in the class, that I think it's May timeframe, right, Mrs. Shinstock, where we send the placement tests out. We have a pretty quick turnaround within 2 weeks to get it back to you. And then for me, I suggest concepts or places that a student can go and work through the summer. We also, Scholé Academy also offers the tutoring center that you can, if you need preparation for that next math course. And like I said, then you can retake it again at the end of the summer to enter into that 6th grade course. So my suggestion would be to contact the instructor of that course and then they will be able to tell you the prerequisites. And you'll have a pretty good idea of where your student falls, what they're familiar with, as far as whether to go into the 5th grade or 6th grade class or to enroll, because there will be a placement test.
Thank you. So I just was sharing the screen as you were talking through that, and I wanted to just draw everyone's attention to where the link is for the math placement process. This link is also available in the student parent handbook, but it's just a PDF that goes over that timeline that Mrs. Reith-Miller just finished talking about. And then I won't click this one because it's a video, but it's a very helpful video from Dr. Riley, the math department chair, that helps parents make decisions about our math courses in regards to where their students are. But all the things that Mrs. Reith-Miller said, just in terms of when you are trying to determine your course selection that best fits your student, we ask that you look at the description on every page. And these tabs here are the same across all of our math offerings: description, scholarship skills and prereqs, course texts, about the instructor, and then all of the instructor emails are going to be under About Us on the instructor page. So we try to give you as much information up front as possible to help you make a good enrollment decision. And I know there are some more questions specific to placement and maybe even to your child. So what I recommend is emailing support@scholeacademy.com. And this is going to send your email to our admin team, and then we can answer it or pass it on to an instructor or pass it on to the department chair. And then that way we can respond to your questions. Let's take a look at a couple more questions here. So if a student doesn't pass the assessment and the lower level sections are full, can they still get into a lower course? So that's a great question. It depends. There's a couple ways that we look at this. When we do have students who do not place in whatever course that they're in, we do prioritize their needs. And many times when it comes to the wait list, if for some reason a class is full, we can look at other arrangements. I know we talked about the tutoring center, but we do try our best to make sure that students who need to move around due to the placement assessment, that they are placed in their accurate level and course. And majority of the time that takes place because we do prioritize the students who registered for a course and then due to an assessment need to be put into a different level. Forgive me, I'm just scrolling through to make sure I've answered questions. In terms of how do our, or how does the program line up with other programs when students are coming to us, I do just want to talk briefly, because I know we're just about out of time, about the math program. So again, the best way to kind of determine how does my child fit or where do they start in the program is to look at the course page, the description, the scholarship skills, look at the textbooks that's used, and then reach out to that instructor. Prior to enrollment, we encourage you to ask questions. We encourage you to schedule a Zoom meeting to meet with that teacher to describe what books your student has been using or what has been their past math experience leading up to potentially registering for a course. Those types of conversations and communications are invaluable, and it's really through that kind of direct contact with an instructor that a parent is going to be well informed to make a decision. And new students, their enrollment will be confirmed by that placement assessment. So, Mrs. Reith-Miller, anything else that you'd like to add before we go ahead and close for the afternoon?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Nope.
All right. Well, I just wanted to give you the last word just in case I missed an important question. But I just wanted to definitely say thank you. Thank you for your time. We appreciate your students. And if we missed your question, please do email us at support@scholeacademy.com. Our teachers are on winter break with our students starting Monday, February 20th through the 24th. So communication might slow down a little bit, but do email us and we will get back to you as quickly as possible to help you with any of your enrollment decisions. So thank you again for considering Scholé Academy and specifically our math program. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.